YouTube, what's going on? We're back some more of the First Descendant. Got Viessa out. We are in the Sigma sector running the Isolated Desert. I've got all three of her mobbing builds out for you guys. I go through the builds in full detail, so there's a full walkthrough for each one of the builds, all timestamped in the video below, so please feel free to swap to whatever build you're working on or interested in putting together for Viessa. She seems to be doing really well in the Sigma sectors. I wish they would give Viessa some more buffs. But again, she's doing well in the Sigma sector. I just have a real soft spot for Viessa. She's my first Descendant, so yeah, I do enjoy running her when I do bring her out. So, if you guys appreciate these videos, you guys liking the content. As always, please feel free to turn on those notifications, sub to the channel, drop a like. All right, I'll be going over my Viessa builds in detail. I will start with the Cold Snap Watch build. So I'll get right into the weapon first. The most important thing with the build is having the Blue Beetle equipped. So I don't have it cored or anything like that. I'm not going to go into the modules too much about this, but what's most important is its unique ability, just having the weapon out. So this goes for the Absolute Zero build and the Cold Snap Watch build. So when using a fusion, grants the unique ability Arcane Energy with a set chance, and then when using a singular, grants the unique ability Purification. So as you can see in the bottom, it's at 100% trigger rate, and this is the crazy part, 115% skill critical hit rate. This is absolutely crazy for Viessa, because she's, you know, a skill critical hit rate, skill critical hit damage dealer, and this is up the whole time. Absolutely crazy when you have the Blue Beetle at least kitted out to 4, so you get that all the way up to 150% on the skill critical hit rate. Huge. And then obviously when you're running the Purification, you get the Purification when running singular, which is the Absolute Zero, and it's 100% trigger rate, and you're just getting all the debuffs removed. So really, really great weapon that synergizes well with Viessa. I don't have a cord or anything crazy like that. If you want to see the modules, there it is. It's a work in progress. We will get it cored up and get all this maxed out. But again, it's just a matter of holding it in your hand to take advantage of the of its unique abilities. So that's why you run it with the Blue Beetle. Just that 115% skill critical hit rate and the Purification, you know, debuff remover when running the Absolute Zero build. So there's the Blue Beetle there. We're running this with the Frozen Mixture Reactor. So this is the Fusion Reactor, again Scout Rifle, taking advantage of the 160% skill power bonuses. I've got the chill, you know, taking advantage of the chill power boost ratio and the fusion power boost ratio. I'll go into that as well as why it's not tech, because your 1 and your 3, which is the Cold Snap Watch, is a fusion skill. And then we want the skill critical hit damage, and I've got the chill skill power boost ratio in gold, which is great. I think you would want to have the skill critical hit rate, but having the chill skill power boost ratio with damage is fantastic. So it's a really good module, or sorry, a really good reactor. I might get this all the way out to 5 just because it's absolutely synergized really, really well. So that's kind of what you would want for your reactor on this build. I run this with the 2-piece Hunter and the 2-piece Annihilation, so you get the skill duration and the cooldown. The skill cooldown is absolutely huge. If Viessa is a skill spammer, it doesn't matter the build, you just constantly throw those skills up when they become available, and having all the right nodes and just a massive amount of mobs will net you the mana back. So having this is really powerful with a little bit of duration and respected to HP. You know, we take a little bit of hit on that on the hit points with Viessa, but again, running at 9,000 with, you know, at least another 9,000 defense is pretty cozy. So you could spec into more HP if you want, but I feel like this is it definitely does the trick. It's definitely good enough. So that's the reactors, is the external components. I'll go into the Arche Tuning just real quick. Again, when we're, you know, just specking into some skill power and some more hit point nodes, again going into MP is an option. Firearm attack is not really needed for Viessa, so we'll definitely be, kitting these out going into some of the MP and heading that way. So that's my Arche Tuning. Inversion Reinforcements, remembering the Sigma sectors. Again, we got the Adrenaline Rush. I like the Antibody Explosion, and I like the Arche Circulation Tactic. Again, on hitting an enemy, I get the 24% skill cooldown for 10 seconds. So again, more skill cooldown, all the better for being able to spam Viessa's skills. Descendant module. So this is my Cold Snap Watch build. Again, with the Cold Snap Watch, it creates a Cold Snap zone in front that remains for a certain period of time. So it's just an area of effect dealer. You slap your Cold Snap Watch down, and it'll just continually tick huge amounts of damage. So really cool, transcendent module for Viessa. And again, we've just spec'd heavily into the chill skill power with some cooldown. There's survivability in there. There's our skill cooldown in range. So your skill cooldown modules, you want your nimble fingers and your MP conversion. You want your amplification control for range. You can go maximize range, but you take a 20% skill modifier hit on that. I don't like any of those deep modifiers, so I'll take a little bit of reduced range on that, just so I don't lose the skill power. And again, we got some more skill range on that. So we've got our cooldowns, we've got our ranges, and then now this is where we spec into a little bit more cooldown with some chill skill power that complements the skill, the nimble fingers, and the MP conversion nicely. And then these are where our attack modules come in. We've got the 1 HP node for survivability, and then we've got the chill. We've got your skill critical hit rate 115%, which is absolutely crazy. Your skill critical hit damage at 150%, and then we've got our front lines, which specs into damage and skill critical hit rate. I picked front lines over emergency measures just simply because we're already really spec'd heavily into the critical hit rate, especially with the blue Beetle equip that I just showed you. That going more into damage just does this thing hit like a truck. So then we top this all off with the MP collector. This is how we're able to keep spanning our skills and keep our mana up the whole time. So those are the Descendant modules that I use for the Cold Snap Watch for Viessa. And again, everything that you want is to keep your skill cooldown. So you got, even on a number 4 when we're not using it, you got this, it's on a 16 second cooldown. But again, a 4-second cooldown on your Cold Snap Watch when this thing is just absolutely just destroying enemies. Is insane. And again, you got your Frost Roads out. Again, these are just providing ice shackle and allows you to move quicker, increasing your descendant speed. Really nice. And again, because this is fusion, this is why we have the fusion reactor. You're number 1. This thing hits insanely hard as well. So you're constantly spamming your number 1, which is a fusion, and your number 3, which is a fusion, and then you're just dropping these in as they become available. Absolutely crazy build. Love this build for Viessa. I wish they would buff it more. And again, I just went over the blue Beetle. Why this is so important is just right here for the skill critical hit rate, 150% just by holding it and casting the fusion skills, which I just went over. And then when we run the absolute zero, you get the purification. You just run around without having to worry about debuffs being applied on you the whole time. Fantastic weapon for Viessa. Alright, this is my absolute zero build. Again, going over the weapon. The most important thing is to have your blue Beetle up. I don't have it cored or fully kitted or done yet. What's most important is just holding it. Again, I went over it with the Cold Snap Watch. You're able to absolutely have this up 100% of the time. This is your skill critical hit rate. And then running this with the absolute zero, we don't have to worry about getting hit with any types of debuff. It's just constantly being removed over and over again with the absolute zero. So we're able to just constantly run around without having to worry be hindered by any debuffs being applied to us. So that's why the blue Beetle is extremely important with this. Again, I don't have a cord or anything. I'm not going to go over into a huge amount of detail. We've got the frozen singularity reactor, obviously with the absolute zero applied. which I'll go over. All of our skills are now reverted to singularity, so they've converted from tech and fusion all into singular attribute or a singular power or singular skill. Sorry. So that's why we're running it, and you want this in gold, but you want to have the skill critical hit damage and skill critical hit rate in gold. So this is a good roll. I want it in gold to take real good advantage of the damage and the skill critical hit rate as we're flying around the map. I run this with a 4-piece polar night set, and the reason why I do this is because now our ice roads now inflicts frostbite. It doesn't inflict ice shackle. I'll go over that as well. So we're able to take advantage of all of these frostbite stacks with the additional critical hit damage, which is fantastic because as we're inflicting the frostbite, which we're doing all the time, the damage is going up, and our skill critical hit rate is through the roof already. So we're triggering skill critical hit damage while applying, the absolute zero to the AoE field. Absolutely huge. So I really love this set. I really got a good rolls. Again, everything's specking into HP or MP recovery. Shields is nice as well. And this build is really cushy with 11,000 hit points. To give you some survivability in there. The Arche Tuning. Again, we went over this. We're just specking heavily into skill power to start, and then we're going into the HP. When it comes to the inversion reinforcements, again, I like the adrenaline rush to be able to increase my speeds. I like the anti-body explosion just for increased resistance to status effects. And I am currently running the Arche circulation tactic because, again, upon hitting an enemy with a skill, gives me skill cooldown at 24%, which is just absolutely huge for Viessa. As you skill spammer, you're just constantly using them all the time. Descendant module, absolute zero. So again, when using the skill, Ice Shackle is not inflicted. When the skill lands a critical hit, which is why critical hit is important, inflicts frostbite on the target. Successfully inflicting frostbite triggers an ice sphere, which is our passive effect, our ice spheres. So again, all of the skills, when you apply the absolute zero, as you can see, have become singular. They are no longer fusion and tech. That's why we have a singular reactor. The skill power modifier increases drastically when you're on absolute zero, so everything just hits really, really hard with it. And again, we're inflicting frostbite with these skills. Again, the frost roads, it inflicts ice sheets now. This is our absolute, this is what absolute zero does, and inflicts frostbite. Again, the frostbite is tying into our external components. We're getting damage from this on a crazy cooldown. Everything that we have here now is just, as you can see, skill power 3,000, 900. You don't get this with the other builds. So as you can see, the skill power is at 997, 3,000, 1,500. And just to put that in perspective for that, just having it on there, 1,000. I think it's a base at 800 on your, your number one on your frost shards. And then this was at skill power at 600, but this is, again, it's applying down on a sheet. So absolute zero, and another example of that here is to move over to Cold-Blooded, 803, 3,000 for the two, 1,400. So again, it's pretty stable on the Cold Snap. And your number 4, your Blizzard. But again, you get the extra almost 100 or 200% on the on your frost shard. So absolute zero does have an actual damage or skill power buff that the other transcendent modules don't. Just so you know that. Again, they're all converted to singular. You want to spec into your skill cooldown. So we've got our nimble fingers, amplification control. Again, you can go maximize range, but you get the negative skill power modifier. I don't like using it. I feel like there's enough range on this build as it is. Oh, sorry, that's for the range. So it's skill cooldown, MP conversion for the skill cooldowns, and then your range is amplification control and skill expansion. So again, nimble fingers, MP conversion for skill cooldown, amplification control, skill expansion for range. we have our one singular survivability mod, which is increased HP. We're going into chill. Obviously, Viessa is focused on chill. A chill descendant, and we have the skill cooldown as well, just to keep that really topped up nice with the nimble fingers and the nimble fingers and MP conversion. And then at this point, we spec heavily into our damage dealers, which is the skill insight, the critical hit rate, and damage. Again, having this more critical hit rate we can apply, the better off our frost roads will be. Skill critical hit damage, and then we've got emergency measures. Again, with this build here, we spec into skill critical hit rate because the critical hit rate helps us generate more skill critical hit damage, and because the blue beetle now doesn't give us the extra skill critical hit rate because it's now singular applied, where it's just curing us of debuffs, speccing into the skill critical hit rate is a little bit more beneficial than front lines. But if you wanted to switch over to front lines and just have your critical hit damage deal more and just have a little bit less skill critical hit rate, that is also a viable option as far as I'm concerned. And we top that off with MP collector. Obviously we need a mana, and this allows us to have that. Having great mobs is great, but just being able to not have to worry about running out of MP is huge. So that is the absolute zero build. Alright, so this is my Cold-Bloodedness mobbing build. For the weapon, I do have this fully cored. Again, this is more of a, I use this for Colossuses with Freyna. You can spec into other things, but you can see my cores there, and you can see my attributes on the bottom as well. Again, you want all these in gold. We're continuing to work on our cores. Why we want to use the Secret Garden for this is the pest control. When using a tech skill, grants the unique ability pest control. Again, pest control. Again, skill power per stack at 16% at 3 stacks. So you're getting almost 50% additional skill power by popping tech skills. And with the Cold-Bloodedness bombing build, we are dropping our Blizzard, which is a tech skill, repeatedly over and over and over again. Which is absolutely fantastic. I'll just move over to it there for you. So we're constantly spamming this, which is a tech, which again allows us to trigger the pest control. So as long as we're dropping the number 4, our Blizzard down, we've got an extra skill power, a bonus just by holding the Secret Garden. Absolutely fantastic weapon. Reactor core, we want the Frozen Mechanics Reactor. Again, I don't have the greatest rolls on this. We are running the tack rifle to take advantage of the 160% and the pest control. Just went over chill tack. Now what we would want here would be tech skill and skill critical hit rate damage, or chill skill power boost tech and chill skill, or skill critical hit damage. This is a great bossing reactor. You want it in gold, but it's not a good mobbing reactor, so this is not optimized. But again, at least we got some of that tech power, but we are lacking because we do not take advantage of our second roll or augment within this reactor, which is the additional skill attack when attacking Colossus. I could definitely do something else other than that. I like running this with a 2-piece polar set. I like the survivability of having the max HP nodes in there. I'm speccing into match HP for my my rolls or my attribute rolls. Again, we're just 2 pieces at chill power, and I run that with a 2-piece annihilation. Again, it rolls natively with max HP, and I get the duration, so a little bit of duration and chill skill power. The reason why I'm not using the hunter for skill cooldown is Cold-Bloodedness. When you're popping it, you lose your frost roads. For the Cold-Bloodedness, it gives you a skill cooldown, so your skills just are on a whatever it says on the Descendant. When I go over the Descendant modules, it's basically have by applying or popping the Transcendent module Cold-Bloodedness. So having the hunter set within here or having the cooldown within the reactor is not needed because of what Cold-Bloodedness does once you activate it. So I like to have the little bit of duration for the Blizzard, and then the additional skill power, which is kind of offsetting that. Colossus is not there, but there's definitely more power to be gained off of this build. Again, nice and cozy with the double HP at 13,000, so survivability is not too big of an issue. With that, Arche Tuning, I've gone over this. We're focused on enhancing the skill power, getting that down, and the HP, and then we will focus on We don't really need damage, but obviously some MP in here would be great. So that is the Arche Tuning. Inversion Reinforcements. I like running the Adrenaline Rush for the speed, the Antibody Explosion for some attribute resistance, and I am running the Arche Circulation Tactic so that I can gain the 24% skill cooldown when popping a skill. And Viessa is just throwing skills up like crazy, so you get that extra skill cooldown there, even though you're not getting it within the external components. Descendant modules, Cold-Bloodedness. So again, when using a skill, increases skill power and decreases skill cost and cooldown. So this is what I'm talking about when it comes to this. So it doesn't natively show here. So it says my skill cooldown's at 19.1. You half that. My skill cooldown is at 8 seconds for my 4. It's constantly coming back, and you'll see it in the example. As soon as I trigger Cold-Bloodedness, these skills reduce down again by half. It's a 1 second cooldown. This is a 3 second cooldown. You are just spamming these skills over and over, and the most important thing is drop this repeatedly. You get the tech, you get your pest control, you get extra skill power damage. So that's how it all synergizes. And again, there's really not too much different than this build than all the other builds. Again, we want our skill cooldown, so we've got our nimble fingers, we've got our MP conversion in there for the cooldown. We've got the focus on chill that specs into chill skill power, but we get the skill cooldown as well. So those are all the cooldown modules that we're currently running with this. And then we spec into our range. We want the amplification control. You can go maximize range if you want, if you don't care about losing the skill power modifier to help. And the skill expansion, and again, more range. And then this is where we go into our little bit of a survivability. This is our one and only survivability node with increased HP. And then everything else is into skill critical hit rate, skill critical hit damage, with the skill concentration and the skill insight. And then we spec into front lines with more skill critical hit damage. Absolutely insane build. Pop that off with MP collector. Very, very fun to use. This basically just takes your bossing build, turns it into a mobbing build. Also very fun to use with Viessa. So I've already gone over the weapon. That is the Cold-Bloodedness mobbing build.
This is Hound Action, reporting extreme concentrations of void energy within the operation zone. All units, please proceed at your own discretion, but do not exceed your limits.
Large-scale voltage transfer confirmed. Descendant, stop the enemy troop deployment.
Conditions are unfavorable. Proceed with caution. Over.
wide-range shaping charge on the ground. We need it to purify the void energy. Prime the detonator with your Arche, then hit the detonation device.
Shall we race?
Deploying Arche. I am the original.
Mission complete. Transport inbound. See you soon.
This is Hound action to all personnel. Void storm is intensifying. Conditions are unfavorable. Proceed with caution. Over.
Prime the detonator with your Arche, then hit the detonation device.